Welcome, everyone. We are back at another episode at Indie Reads Aloud. I love doing this program. Why? Well, you've heard it before. I love doing this program because I get to meet new to me authors and discover their books. M Samland. His name is actually Jamie. I get to call him that because we're friends. So,
Hello there.
Jamie, Jamie is here today. Jamie, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
This is going to be super fun because I haven't read any of your work yet. And as I often say on this program, I am the consummate 6-year-old. I love to sit on the carpet and have somebody read out loud to me. So this is like the perfect way for me to spend any time in my day. So I'm very appreciative that you're here. And just to pre-warn or pre-excite everyone, in the coming weeks, we're going to be hearing a lot from Jamie. You've published 11 books, right?
9 books.
9 books. Okay. See, I'm already
Well,
jumping ahead for you.
I've done 8 books, and the 9th one is coming out in early December. So
Awesome.
I finished 9 books. Yeah.
That's so cool. For those of you like me who've never met Jamie before, let me tell you a little bit about him. He is a fantasy author based in Canton, Michigan. He is passionate about creating vivid worlds and compelling characters that transport readers to new realms of imagination. Drawing inspiration from his love of storytelling, Jamie spends his free time playing board games, role playing with friends, and indulging in other hobbies like, martial arts and home repair. When he's not writing, Jamie is often found lost in thought, dreaming up new and exciting stories to share with readers alongside his husband and their 4 cats. Now, I really want to acknowledge you. You are testing for a new belt coming up.
Yeah.
Which belt and which discipline?
So I'll be a 4th degree black belt in Taekwondo. So that'll be the master level Taekwondo. So I've been training for the better part of a decade. And so it's not the end of a journey, but it is a milestone, I'm sure.
That's pretty astounding. And you also teach as well.
Yes, I do. Yep. So I teach the mostly the kids. So a lot of like 7 to 15-year-olds, and I'm trying to whip some discipline into them, I suppose.
That takes tremendous patience. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it does. It does.
How cool. How nice that you're imparting this discipline to younger people.
Mhm.
I think carrying on tradition is one of the most important things we can do. As with storytelling, I think something like maintaining a discipline like Taekwondo is also a legacy thing. I mean, it's something you get to share with future generations. So it's a
Yes.
really cool thing.
Taekwondo had a big impact on my life, so I just like to share that to others.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the book you're going to read tonight is the second of a series that you hinted in our green room that might become something longer. This
Oh
is
yeah.
called Ooo Shiny, and it's volume 2. Tell me just a little bit about this collection of short stories, where you got the basic idea. And I'm really interested to share with our readers the story you told me about the squirrel.
Well, yeah, like I said, or like you said, it was so this is part 2 or book 2 of it. So it wouldn't really be on brand for me to go in order at all. So that's why we're starting with the second one. So this
That's fair
the
enough. Fair enough.
book is a squirrel on the cover. I've got squirrels in the background too. So I'm pretty sure I have ADHD. My brain just goes all over the place. A lot of these stories started as like writing prompts. So I have a group of friends that will meet at Sandwich Place and do some writing prompts, and some of them have been weird enough that I was able to complete them and turn them into stories I thought that other people might want to read. So then those turned into the Shiny books. So the first one was just a collection of whatever. And then the second one, I already had a number that were kind of holiday related. I had a Christmas one and a 4th of July one. So I said, I'm just going to make it the holiday edition. And then, after I had like about 3 or 4 stories, and the rest of them were just whatever. So they're mostly, I went with they're more holiday ones than any other one thing. So yeah, I do want to continue with the next one will be vampires. So I have some vampire related ones in mind. So the front will have a vampire squirrel on it. And
What fun.
yep. And it's they're just nice little small books, good to just give out as gifts or whatever, and a good size. The stories are really short. They're great to be just read when you're during your morning constitutional, if you would.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Well,
they're
and
very digestible.
as you say, short story collections make great gifts
Oh yeah,
because you never know what's going to appeal to somebody, and this gives them a little bit of a smorgasbord to choose from.
exactly. And like I say, you can go to Target and you can get you can buy like a greeting card for $8, or you can buy somebody's short book of short stories for $8, and stick your gift card in there too, and then you're giving two gifts.
It's the best. And personally, gifts. I love giving books as gifts because you get to use it and reuse it. Nobody ever begrudges a re-gifted book.
Sure. Yeah.
And we thank people for sharing books with us. So it's not like a Star Wars toy where you have to be very specific about who you give it to. Books are really great for everybody. So
Yep.
at this time of preparing for holiday seasoning things, I always push giving books, and they're really easy to wrap.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Nice square edges.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's perfect. So I'm super excited to hear you read from this story. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're going to read, and then when you're ready, please take the microphone and read aloud.
Yeah. So this story was going to take place, or the story features Senior Detective McClackey. And the first Shiny book, he has two stories about him. He is the always, if there's a murder mystery involved, it's going to have McClackey in there somewhere. He's just my grizzled vet, always 2 weeks from retirement. Very, very, all of the tropes just get thrown onto him, and that's him. So he always gets saddled with the most infant person on the force too. He always hates his partners. Yeah. So
I love the idea that he's perpetually 2 weeks away from retirement.
yeah.
I love that idea.
Well, all the movies are always, oh, I'm almost to retirement.
Yeah,
So right.
it's perfect. So when you're
Yeah.
ready, please read to me.
Okay. So the story is Potato Salad at the Lake House. Senior Detective McClackey shuffled through the stacks of red folders, tossing them one at a time onto the uneven pile in front of him. What should have been a gentle last 2 weeks before retirement quickly morphed into one of the most gruesome cases of his long career. Each folder burst with paper-clipped crime scene photos with a clear pattern. There was another killer on the loose in this quiet vacation town. A killer that spared no one and left McClackey wondering how the victims could possibly contain so much blood. Yet after 5 crime scenes, they'd yet to find a scrap of evidence of the killer. Not a single fingerprint, shoe impression, hair, or clothing fiber. The local cops from this little rural town were starting to whisper of a murderous ghost. It was all McClackey could do to contain the story from the press without the added worry of the cops leaking paranormal hogwash. The sleepy town of St. Sorcia was all locals and off-season renters right now, but in another 2 weeks would bring thousands for the Off-Road Vehicles Fest, signaling the start of the on-season. If the killer wasn't caught by then, they would have a much easier time finding new targets in the noise of traffic. Or she, McClackey thought, ladies can be mass murderers these days too. He reached for the files again, but what would be the point? He had been through them enough to commit every detail to memory. The victims had no connection, nothing beyond residing in this little town. And with nothing in common, there was no way to protect who would be next. Hey, sir, said the impossibly young detective Miles Dunn. He didn't look old enough to drive, let alone solve crimes. I'm heading to the Dollar Plus. You need anything? McClackey didn't, but neither did he need to keep sitting behind the desk doing nothing. I'm driving, he said, snatching his coat and hat from the back of his chair. Every telephone pole between the station and the Dollar Plus sported a fluorescent reminder of the upcoming ORV Fest. Not that they were needed. It wasn't as though anyone would drive through St. Sorcia and change their existing weekend plans. The town had their regulars, and they'd be coming within a fortnight. The colorful signs only reminded McClackey of his deadline. The kid behind the register, Tyler, according to the name on the badge, straightened but barely looked up from his phone as the cops entered with a chime. No one wanted to pay full price for something in St. Sorcia, and the Dollar Plus was a haven for thrifty shoppers. Nothing down the rows of linoleum was brand name, and that was precisely how the regulars and renters liked it. Junior Detective Dunn pushed open the chest freezer, dug for a rainbow popsicle from last season, and popped it in his mouth before disappearing around a display of country-style welcome signs. McClackey approached them, tracing a finger along the cheap rough wood emblazoned with stars and patriotic colors. He wondered who would buy such a gaudy thing, as half the cottages in town already had one on the front porch beside refurbished rockers. Such a minor detail wasn't in the official reports, but every one of the murder signs had such a sign out front. Taking note of trivia made him good at his job, but it wasn't like it meant anything. John returned with a plastic basket loaded with example of each department in the dollar plus, a bottle of concentrated floor cleaner completely in Spanish, 2 individually wrapped rolls of one-ply toilet paper, a large print crossword puzzle, and a bag of taffy, and also a dusty paperback novel. Still sucking on the popsicle, Dunn paid and looked expectantly at McClackey. You sure you don't need anything? Signs are on sale, Tyler offered with a nod. McClackey's eye drifted to the cheap welcome signs, and for the first time in years, thought how Clara might have happily put several like that on their front door stoop. Quite sure. I do my shopping off duty. Come on, junior detective. He pulled a cigarette from the pack in his breast pocket and lit it the moment they stepped on the rubber mat outside. You know those will kill you, said Dunn in a tone McClackey was sure the kid intended as helpful or informative. It only made the senior detective want to knock him over the head. Well, something's got to do it. Leaning against the side of the patrol car, McClackey nodded his chin to the mass market paperback in the kid's hand. I didn't know your generation read, just video games and books on tape. Books on tape? Dunn repeated with a snort. Wow, no, they still teach reading in public ed. Maybe don't focus on writing cursive and how to balance a checkbook. No, I read plenty. McClackey grunted, tossing away the remains of the smoke and reaching for another. Then, what do you got there? Dunn held out the paperback from McClackey. Crimson Secrets, the Bloodline Chronicles, the detective read. Eyes drifting to meet Dunn's. Sounds like smut. Dunn snatched it back before McClackey could turn it over to read the back. He fidgeted with it, fanning his thumb through the pages. I mean, there's usually some of that, but that isn't why I read them. There's a whole series, the Bloodline Chronicles, that follows a police officer that's also a vampire and uses his powers to solve crimes. And then all the cases are based on real cases. That sounds terrible. Dunn pursed his lips. I'm just not explaining it well. They're really good books, I'm sure. McClackey flicked away his second button. We're on the clock. Unless your book can tell us how to catch this killer, we have work to do. Yeah, listen to this, said Dunn as he buckled the seatbelt, reading from the back of his novel. As darkness descends, Damien Darkwood, a seasoned vampire police officer with insatiable thirst for justice, faces his most formidable case yet. Tasked with unraveling the enigmatic puzzle, Damien must navigate the intricate web of secrecy and ancient bloodlines. With his unique abilities and unwavering determination, he must confront both supernatural and human forces that threaten to plunge the town into eternal night. As the clock ticks and the body count rises, Damien races against time to expose the truth and protect his community from the encroaching evil that transcends mere mortals. Will he succeed in solving his haunting mystery, or will he become the next victim in the relentless dance between darkness and light? McClackey grunted, silently cursing the captains that kept assigning the least senior officers on the force to him. It's a lot of words and said nothing. Well, yeah, Dunn fanned a finger through the book again. This is the 16th in the series. The author must be doing a good job for a little nothing town like this to carry his work. McClackey bit back the grin and threatened the edge of his lips. But imagine it, Dunn continued. What if the killer was a vampire? All the victims had a welcome sign on the front porch. They pulled up to a red light, details gnawing at the back of McClackey's mind. You notice all the victims had a welcome sign out front? Dunn nodded with a mouthful of taffy. Yeah, welcome to our lake house. Hang up your towel and come on in, and the like. I figured you decided it wasn't important since, like, those are everywhere up here. But you probably, that might give a Dracula permission to enter and kill you, right? That would explain all the blood, too. Dracula? Is that what kids call them these days? Sure, Dunn shrugged. I never get why vampires make such a mess. I don't throw potato salad all over the room when I'm eating it, so why do they splash blood all over the place? You know vampires aren't real, kid. I feel like I need to hear you say that. I know. Dunn slid his book back into the plastic bag, looking down at his lap. I know vampires aren't real. Vampires weren't real, but neither were half the creatures central in McClackey's biggest cases, according to official records. Most signs had generic greetings, but the victims had cheap wood and paint that directly welcomed the visitor to their home. McClackey cursed, hoping the kid hadn't accidentally cracked the case Sure, closing the glass case before retirement would be great, but not if it meant facing against a blood-sucking creature of hell. Keep going, gets worse. I'm dropping you back at the station. I have some other errands to run. Dunn's shoulders slumped. You sure? I can go with you. Yeah, kid. See you in the morning. Hopefully. 20 minutes later, McClackey dug through the shed behind his cottage, shifting through years of unplayed yard games until he found a slice of the elm tree that was once in his front yard. Burned into the rings was the text. Welcome, come on in. Seamus and Clara McClackey, established 1978. He propped it against the siding beside the front door and stepped into the cabin that should have been his retirement home. Pouring a tall glass of whiskey, he pried up a loose floorboard, removing the polished box below it. The weight of his father's service revolver settled comfortably into his grip, but the special bullets he loaded into the cylinder filled him with dread for the night to come. No amount of unease could stave off the exhaustion that came with keeping his nerves on high alert for hours. McClackey snorted awake as a shadow flitted across the lacy curtain over the front window. Decades of detective experience kicked in to analyze the image that he glimpsed for only an instant. Man-shaped, thin and tall, long fingers outstretched. The classic image of the shadowy Nosferatu slinking up the stairs came to mind. McClackey clutched his father's gun tight, checking it hadn't come unloaded while he dozed. A muffled scratching from the front porch. McClackey pulled back the hammer. He clearly remembered locking the door, but the knob jiggled twice and twisted freely. It swung inward with a freak, casting a blade of moonlight across the worn Berber. McClackey's heart thudded in his ears, so thunderous he barely heard the hissed voice. If you didn't want to be my meal, perhaps you shouldn't have been so cavalier about broadcasting your welcoming invitation. The clawed shadow stood silhouetted in the open door. It took one step forward, crossing into the cabin. McClackey squeezed his finger. The creature bellowed its rage as the 38 caliber slugs ripped into his damned soul. It collapsed in a heap after McClackey fired the last. He shook out the casings and reloaded before approaching to kick the mast with his boot. He rolled it over, barely registering the twisted pale flesh and steaming black blood. His eyes could only see the rectangle of plastic on his chest. Tyler, $1 plus. Quite the mess you got there, McClackey. He jumped at the voice behind him, close enough to feel the cold breath on his neck. He wheeled, tripping on the body and losing his gun to flailing arms. Junior Detective Miles Dunn stepped into the sliver of moonlight, his mouth twisting into a feral grin with unnaturally long canines. Why are you? McClackey looked down at the body, then back to his partner. Was he even one of them, or was he just a decoy? He scanned the floor for his revolver. Dunn's eyes sparked with an inner hellfire. He raised McClackey's father's service arm, turning to dump the special munitions on the floor. Don't worry, old man. You solved your last case. I don't know how I'll spin this when I arrive in the morning. Arrive to the scene in the morning, but that's hours away. But I've seen you in the sun. Dunn snorted and shrugged. So? You monster. His fingers slid around the aerosol can and clipped to his belt. Its contents would definitely not be found on the shelves of $1 plus. If it comes to name calling, I think we're done here. It was an honor, McClackey. I'll make sure to keep the scene consistent to your, chuckled Riley, potato salad all over the place. I told you my books were all based on true cases. I must be out of practice 2 weeks from retirement. I never deduced that I was working beside a celebrity dinghy in Darkwood. Dunn grinned, flashing slender canines in the dark. McClackey raised the can, bringing it in front of him just as Dunn closed the space between them. And then we don't know what happens.
Oh, come on! That's
That
not
was the big
fair.
response I got from all the readers. What happens?
Oh, that's not fair. So you're going to make me buy book 3.
Oh, maybe. He just gets away, maybe. Who knows? Maybe he doesn't.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So not fair. I was like really on the edge of my seat too. That's so unfair. Maybe you're not my friend anymore.
Maybe.
Okay, just kidding.
So that story actually started with I was driving home from a friend's cabin up in St. Helen, Michigan, which I happen to be wearing a shirt that I got up there.
Yeah.
And lots of little cabins, and they get big during their ORV season. And I saw lots of people with welcome signs out front. And I thought, does that let vampires in? I don't know. I think it would have. And then it turned into this.
See, so that completely answers everybody's question out there. Where do you get your story ideas? For us,
whatever I see in the world.
For us, story ideas are so plentiful, we can't go anywhere without finding them.
For sure. Yeah.
So, who in life did you base McClackey off of?
He was, I guess, with the combination of all the cops you see in these, the lethal gun sort of things, where you got the old cop and the new cop, and the old grizzled cop is just who McClackey turned into. So he's chain smoking, upset about everything. McClackey.
Generally, an old guy who's just done doing what he's been doing for 40
Oh yeah,
years.
he's too old for this. Yeah, he's just about to retire.
So tell me a little bit about some of the other stories that are in this particular book. Are
So
there any others, maybe 2 or 3, that you could describe to us that
yeah, of
would be
course.
kind of fun?
So the absolute shortest one in here is called The Chicken. It is 1 page long, and this is, it's printed on small paper, so it is actually quite small. That one, it started from a prompt that was write why the chicken crosses the road, and then write the scene again from someone else in the scene. So someone else watching the chicken cross the road. So it starts with just, a chicken doesn't have a whole lot of intelligence, and so it's just crossing the road to get food because there might be seeds on the other side. And then the other perspective is the road itself. So
okay, that's fun. All right,
yeah,
it's super short. I know you didn't practice, but can you read that for us, just because it is super short, and now you've piqued my interest and now I want to hear
it. Okay. I bake naked in the sun. I swapped the order of these for the book.
Okay.
I bake naked in the sun, but would never complain, for that is my role. I wind through the countryside, carving the critical path. I am relied on by thousands. It was always been my noble duty in this world. What's this now? Some reluctant traveler wishes to pass my girth rather than my length. What does this mean? Treating me as an entity which divides the world rather than unites its farthest reaches? Do I divide? Is my existence a lie? Do I render the world in twain? And then the chicken. Seeds there. The ground is hot. Hurts my feet. Run faster. Flap my wings. Worthless. Are those seeds? Flap, flap.
That's super fun.
The chicken crossing the road causes an existential crisis in the road. The thing that goes places, not, you don't go across the road.
It's perfect. I love it. It's super fun. Tell me, you were saying earlier in the green room that you meet together with a writers group, and these stories come out of prompts from that group. Tell me about your experience in writing with community. I've always been a very strong supporter of writing in community. How do you find it, and why would you or not? Why would you not? There we go. Diana can speak. Why would you or why would you not recommend it to the average writer who's just starting out on their writing journey?
Well, so the other ladies that I write with, they've been writing for quite a long time. Not just ladies, I mean, but all the other people I write with, they have been writing for quite a while, and they are like dead set on traditionally publishing. So they're going down the route of traditionally published. I self-publish everything. So when we meet, though, we come from very different backgrounds, and we'll do a writing prompt like that one with the chicken. And I'll come up with one thing, and mine will just be silly and weird, and someone else will come up with something that turns into a romance, and someone else does something that's like a dark fantasy, evil magic involved. And it's just having those different, we start with the same thing, but we come up with vastly different things. It just shows the whole breadth of creativity that we have. And then once you've written stuff, we share it amongst each other, and it's very different to share work with another writer versus saying, "Hey, mom, could you read this for me?"
Sure.
And
yeah.
You give it to family or friends that aren't necessarily writers, and they'll have a different mindset in that. I think once you've written enough and you've done enough like self-editing, you kind of have a different mindset of how the quality of books. You know that the story has to go through some sort of a structure, and if something is missing from it, you will probably, if you're working with other writers, they might be able to help you identify what that thing is. And especially if you're starting out, there's a thousand books out there about how to write, and it gives you this list of things: do this, do this, do this, do this.
Sure. Yeah.
Don't do these things. But there's some middle ground in there where you have to understand if they say don't do these things, why do they not want me to do these things? Like, don't
And can I
use
break
bad
the
verbs.
rules and do them anyway?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
But you need to understand why those rules exist in
sure.
order to then break them. Yeah. So working with the community then, or if we all want to work on a project, so we just sit down, set a timer, and go. That's wonderful as well too. It just gives you a chance to know that other creative juices are flowing around you, and you just kind of
Absolutely.
pick up on that. It's like if you
Yeah.
go to see a horror movie at home versus in the movie theater, it's going to be more intense, feeding off the emotions of everyone around you. You're feeding off everyone else's creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a real change in the energy when you write in community with
Mm-hmm.
other writers. I think you can it and it's really interesting to me because you and I work in a group on Monday nights that's remote.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a different kind of energy than sitting across the table. There's still an
Sure.
exchange of ideas and you feel like you're all in the same pond together.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but but there's still an exchange of energy, although that energy is a little bit different sitting across the table at a cafe.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it is fun to we'll say here's our prompt, and when we're sitting at the cafe, here's our prompt. Everyone set a timer for 10 minutes, and then who wants to go first? And once the timer's off, we're half of us are like, oh, I barely got anything done. I just barely got to what was going to be the prompt, and someone else is like, that was the most garbage thing I ever wrote, and then they read it, and it's actually amazing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
That self-editing mechanism inside writers is pretty. I think it's a very complex thing to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, and what you think may not work, somebody else may love.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like any kind of art form, right? It's very subjective, and I think that's part of what makes it so much fun is that we have our community, in particular the indie author community, has such a wonderful diversity of ideas and concepts. I just think it's super fun to play with. Thank you so much for coming on the program. I'm
Oh,
so
thank
glad
you.
you were here.
Oh, I've got, if I could, if I want to plug it ever so slightly,
Yeah.
two
Go
of the
plug
stories.
it loudly. Go ahead.
Okay, plug it loudly then. So two of the stories that I put into here. One of them started with the prompt of your dog is being taken by the Fae. What happens? And so that's actually going to be the basis of my next novel that I'm working on now that I'm going to be slamming out through NaNoWriMo.
Oh,
It's about a
fun.
couple whose dog is conscripted into the Fae army, like a couple from somewhere in Michigan, 2023. Then has to go into the Fae world to get their dog back, and in doing so, their marriage was kind of on the rocks when they go to there, and so they end up saving their marriage and saving the Fae world, and they get their dog back. But so there's two stories in here that involve those characters, and it's gonna be kind of fun because I'm using one of the stories as like the beginning and end of the book, and then another one of is kind of the middle of it, or at least the inciting incident of it. So even these little short stories, they can just spark an idea that
Oh, sure.
turns into a whole novel.
Yeah. I did something similar. I wrote a short story that was Snow White was arrested for and put on trial for misappropriation of emotion,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
and the first person to testify in her trial was Grumpy, so it was Grumpy's testimony, and I got such great response from that story that now my project for Nano is to write the entire Fractured Fairy Tale.
Okay.
So it's going to be a lot of fun
Nice.
having a good
Nice.
time with it. But yeah, we can take little nuggets of inspiration like that, and we never know where they're going to end up going.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they could sit on your shelf for 4 or 5 years, and then suddenly you have an idea of how to build it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
I have a rule: don't ever delete anything
Oh no.
because
You
you never
cut it,
know.
save it somewhere else. Don't get rid of it.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you came tonight. I'm really looking forward to having you on the program again in the future. We have many more great stories to share of yours. Thank you so much, Jamie. I
Oh, thank
appreciate
you so
your
much for
time.
having me. It's been great.
And
Thank
I
you.
look forward to seeing you in the cafe again soon.
Yes. All right.